Hi, my name is Odessa Bran. And the last time my sister smiled at me, her boyfriend slammed my face into a locker. They called it a joke. My parents called it discipline. But I called it what it was: erasure. That night, while I pressed paper towels to my bleeding eyebrow, Maribel leaned against my bedroom door and whispered, "You will not ruin my senior year. Not for 1 second." But what happens when the blur they thought would stay silent shows up with proof that no one can laugh away? Would you hide in the background? Or would you drag the truth into the light, even if it burned? Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We share new stories every single day. Hit like and let us know what city you are watching from in the comments. There is a kind of silence that does not come from peace. It comes from being erased, day by day, name by name, photo by photo. That was my life at Columbia Falls High School. Most people did not notice me. I was not bullied exactly. I was not adored either. I was convenient silence. Teachers called me quiet but capable. The counselor once told me, "Odessa, you are like the still water of this school." What they did not realize was how often still waters drown things. I walked the halls like a ghost people got used to. I carried my camera everywhere, not because I wanted to capture memories, but because I felt safer looking at life through glass. I was always behind it, never in front. Then there was Maribel. She was not just popular. She was curated. Everyone in her orbit seemed lit just a little better, sounded just a little smarter, laughed just a little louder. It was not that she hated me. No. Maribel ignored me like someone who had already decided my worth, and everyone else followed her lead. That morning, walking down the south wing, I saw her before she saw me, strutting with her usual cloud of admirers. Their voices filled the corridor, high-pitched, bouncing off the lockers like a track on repeat. "She is the one who got the state math award and homecoming queen," I heard a freshman whisper. "Of course that is Maribel Rain. She runs this place." Not one glance toward me, not a flicker of recognition. Later that afternoon, we were called into the gymnasium for the academic recognition assembly. I sat halfway back, close enough to hear but far enough to disappear. They read out names, clapped politely. Then came the principal's voice. "We also want to thank Maribel Rain for her contributions to the debate team, student council, and community service." She stood up like she was born on cue, took the mic, smiled too wide, and then she said it. "Oh, and to my sister Odessa, thanks for always being supportive, and for photobombing half my high school career. She is the blur in every background shot." Laughter. Not just from the kids, from the adults, from the teachers. I did not move. My legs went ice cold. My hands curled around the strap of my camera bag. The laugh did not die quickly. It stretched awkwardly, like everyone was waiting for a punchline that had already landed. I was not in the room anymore. I was 8 again, hiding behind the Christmas tree because Maribel told me my dress made me look cheap. But this time I did not run. I did not cry. I just watched her walk off stage, high-fiving a friend, not even looking my way. That night at dinner, I thought maybe someone would bring it up. Not to apologize, just to acknowledge it happened. We sat at the kitchen table. My mom reheated pasta. My dad scrolled through his phone between bites. Maribel waltzed in late, glowing from her own applause. "So proud of you, sweetie," Mom said, touching her wrist. "You were funny today. Was not she, though?" Dad added, grinning. "You have got charm. That joke about your sister, classic." I blinked. "Classic," he repeated, chuckling. "You had the room." "I did not think it was funny," I said quietly. Maribel rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Odessa, do not be dramatic. It embarrassed me." My mother sighed. "Honey, it was just a joke. You are too sensitive sometimes." I opened my mouth, closed it. The words clawed at my throat, but I knew they would get nowhere. I took my plate to the sink, washed it, dried it, said nothing. No one stopped me. Later that night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The light from the hallway seeped under my door like a lie. I remembered a birthday party years ago when I turned 11. They wrapped an old necklace Maribel did not want anymore and called it a family heirloom. I smiled and said thank you, like I meant it. That was the same year I learned how to disappear politely. I had thought that being quiet made things easier, that it held the family together somehow. But maybe it did not hold anything. Maybe it just made me easier to ignore. The next morning I got to volleyball practice early, too early. The locker room was still echoing with the hum of fluorescent lights. I liked the quiet until I did not, because then I heard footsteps, and they did not belong to any girl on the team. They were heavy, confident, deep voices, too casual for this space. I stopped mid-step. My fingers gripped the strap of my bag again. My back pressed to the cold metal locker behind me. I could not breathe. The footsteps were not just getting closer. They were deliberate, certain, and far too loud to be any girl from the volleyball team. I stayed still, breath caught halfway in my throat, hoping they would turn around, that maybe this was some mistake, and they would walk into the wrong locker room and laugh it off before finally leaving. But then I heard the clatter of something metal. Someone had kicked a bench. The door creaked shut again behind them. And I knew before I saw them. Corbin's voice cut through the air, sharp and smug. Told you she would be here early, guys. A creature of habit. He was followed by two others. Both wore team hoodies. And the kind of expressions boys get when no one has ever told them no. One of them cracked a Gatorade bottle open and took a slow sip, like they were on break, not trespassing into the one place I still thought was mine. I reached for my duffel, trying to keep my movements slow, non-threatening. Maybe if I did not make eye contact, they would get bored and leave. But Corbin stepped in front of me, blocking the path to the door. Leaving so soon, huh? His grin was deliberate. Maribel says you are a bit too full of yourself lately. Thought we would help you see exactly where your place is. I did not respond. I did not look at him. That was a mistake. The taller boy to his left slammed his palm against the locker next to my head. I flinched so hard my shoulder knocked into the metal behind me. Corbin leaned closer. You do not belong here, he whispered, voice low, almost lazy. And you sure as hell do not belong in her world. Ever. I looked up finally, and for a second, just one, I thought I saw something behind his expression. Uncertainty. No, just calculation. Then it happened fast. He grabbed my wrist hard. Not enough to snap bone, but enough to send a jolt of panic up my arm. I tried to yank away. He shoved me. My back hit the locker and the edge of the corner caught my face just above my eye. The pain was immediate, blinding white. Then heat. Something warm slid down my temple. I touched my face and saw red on my fingers. I did not scream. I did not even gasp. I just dropped to the floor, body folding in on itself as my legs gave out. My vision blurred with more than blood. They were laughing. The door slammed again as they fled through the back. Time stopped. Then it crawled. I did not know how long I sat there. I did not know if I was shaking because of the cold tiles, or the fear still trapped in my body like static. My cheek throbbed in sync with my heartbeat. I could not even bring myself to cry. The next sound I heard was the squeak of sneakers. Lighter this time, faster. Then a gasp. Odessa! Juniper. She dropped her gym bag, sprinting the last few feet, and knelt beside me. What happened to you? Oh my God, your face is bleeding so badly. She reached for her phone, but I touched her arm gently. Paper towels, please. Just paper towels, I whispered. Voice. Just, please. She did not ask again. She ran to the sink, soaked a handful of paper towels, and pressed them gently to my face. The bleeding had slowed, but the cut burned like fire. Still, it was the heat behind my eyes, the kind that comes from betrayal, not pain. That hurt more. Did someone seriously do this to you? She asked. I did not answer, because what was I supposed to say? Yes, Maribel sent her boyfriend to remind me I was disposable. Yes, 3 boys stormed in like they owned the very air I breathed. I just let her hold the towels to my eyebrow, while I kept breathing slow and steady. That was all I could do. Later that night, after the nurse had cleaned the wound and written a report, after I lied and told her I slipped on a bench, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling again. A knock at my door barely registered. Then it opened without permission. Maribel stepped in like it was her room, like she had not detonated a bomb in my life less than 12 hours ago. She closed the door quietly and leaned against it. "I heard you were being dramatic again, always so dramatic," she said, arms crossed. I turned my head just slightly. The bruising was already forming under the cut. My eye would swell by morning. "You are not going to ruin my senior year, got it? Understand that?" Her voice was even, practiced. I did not say anything. She tilted her head. "You think this is new? You think I do not know how this works? You run to someone, cry a little, and suddenly I am the bad guy. Not happening. You will not take this from me. Never." It was the first time I saw her clearly, not as a sister, as something colder, self-preserving. She left without waiting for a response, just turned and walked out. I stayed in bed, curled on my side, one hand clutching the hem of my blanket. Not for comfort, just to feel something. The silence in that moment hurt more than the locker, because I knew then she sent him. It had not been random. She wanted to make sure I stayed where I belonged, under her, invisible when useful, silent when not. In the next morning, I pulled on a hoodie and sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. I told Mom I had a migraine. She barely looked up from her tablet. At school, I kept my head down. But as I turned into the main hallway near the auditorium, I saw them. Corbin leaning against the lockers like nothing touched him. Maribel beside him, tossing her hair back as he whispered something in her ear. And they laughed. They laughed like nothing happened. And that was the day I stopped hoping anyone would save me. They laughed like nothing happened. And that was the day I stopped hoping anyone would save me. By second period, the ache in my cheek had settled into a throb I could tune out. The real pain, what pulsed deeper than bone, was knowing their laughter echoed louder than the truth. Still, when Juniper tugged me aside near the stairwell between classes, her voice urgent and whispering, I nodded. "We are going to the office," she said. "Right now, no excuses." Dean Huxley's office smelled like stale coffee and old laminate. His tie was crooked, and the way he leaned back in his chair as we entered reminded me of someone already preparing to dismiss whatever came next. Juniper started talking first. "She was attacked in the locker room yesterday, Principal." He raised an eyebrow, then turned to me. "You were the one injured, right?" I nodded slowly, my mouth dry. "Do you know who it was exactly?" I hesitated. Then I said the names clearly, though my voice barely carried. Corbin Vex and 2 others. Darren and Silas. He leaned forward just slightly at Corbin's name. "Corbin Vex, the quarterback?" I nodded again. He exhaled through his nose. "Are you sure you are not exaggerating what happened? Sometimes these things get misunderstood, you know." My stomach twisted. There it was, the doubt. Not loud, but unmistakable. Polite disbelief dressed in administrative tone. "He slammed her into the lockers," Juniper snapped fiercely. "There is nothing misunderstood about that." He cleared his throat and picked up the phone. "Let me call in your sister right away." Juniper looked at me, jaw clenched. 2 minutes later, Maribel floated in like she had just stepped off a pageant stage, hair perfect, sweater coordinated, smile ready. "Principal Huxley," she said sweetly, "is something wrong happening here?" He gestured to the seat beside me. "We have had an accusation regarding Corbin Fye." Her eyes widened, lips parting in well-rehearsed shock. "Corbin? What? That is completely insane. He was with me after practice yesterday." Then she turned to me, tilting her head. "Are you okay, Odie? You must have hit your head much worse than I thought. Really worse." I looked down at my hands, because if I looked at her face too long, I was afraid I might finally scream. Dean Huxley glanced between us, then made a small mark in his notepad. "I will follow up with the boys. For now, Odessa, please return to class. And Juniper, thank you both." We stepped out into the hall. Juniper looked like she wanted to punch a wall. "She is lying, obviously," she said. "I know, and he is going to let it go. I saw it right there in his face." "I know," I whispered again. We did not speak as we walked toward the gym. I peeled off into the locker room. Not to change, just to breathe. Later that day, Coach Merrick was called in. I knew because I passed him near the faculty lounge, and he would not meet my eyes. He was the one who always said, "We are a team in this school, absolutely no one left behind." But when Dean Huxley asked him about seeing Corbin in the hallway near the girls' locker room, his response was short and spineless. "I did not see much, just some kids hanging around. I do not want to accuse the wrong person of anything." Of course not. That might put a dent in Friday night's big game plan. That night at dinner, I did not say a word. I pushed chicken and rice around my plate until it looked like I had eaten something. Then Mom brought it up like she was discussing a faulty dishwasher. Principal Huxley called. He said you are accusing Corbin of something very serious. Dad did not even look up from his plate. Mom sighed. The school said there is no proof. Maybe you just misunderstood what happened badly. I clenched my fork. Maribel said, Corbin left early. She did not even know you were still in the building at all. I looked at her then. Really looked. And that makes sense to you? Honestly? I asked softly. Dad set down his knife with a clink. We do not want to jeopardize Maribel's future over a simple misunderstanding. Let us not escalate things further. Maribel's future. Not my injury. Not the bruises forming like slow thunder under my skin. I stood up without a word, carried my plate to the sink and walked upstairs. I closed my bedroom door quietly and pulled out my notebook, the one with half-filled pages of things I never said out loud. I did not write much that night. Just one line. Maybe I am invisible. Maybe they want me that way. The next morning I stared at my computer screen for a long time. I had written an email to the school board the night before, detailed everything. Attached a photo Juniper had taken of my bruised face before the swelling went down. My finger hovered over send, and then I deleted it. Instead, I opened a blank document and typed a new sentence. This is what happened to me. It sat there on the screen, blinking back at me. I did not know who would believe me, but I knew silence was not safety anymore. That thought stayed with me the next morning, as I stood at my locker, staring blankly at the scuffed textbooks I had not touched in 2 days. I had not told Juniper about the unsent email, had not told anyone, but that sentence, "This is what happened to me," felt like a match just waiting for the right surface to strike. During third period, I asked to go to the library. I told the teacher I needed to exchange a book for an essay. She nodded, distracted, barely looking up. So I walked the long hallway alone, my bruised rib pulsing with each breath. Inside the library it was hushed, as always. Ms. Ashford, the librarian, gave me a nod. I did not plan to stay long. Just pick a book, pretend to flip through it, and maybe breathe in a place that did not reek of fear or fake sympathy. I was in the non-fiction aisle near the back when I heard them. 2 boys laughing low and fast behind the tall stacks, their voices sharp-edged, like they knew. They should not be talking so loud. "You are lucky Corbin did not get caught at all," one said. "He is such a dumbass doing that right near the hallway cam." I froze. My fingers still rested on the spine of a thick book about wildlife photography. "Seriously, dude," the other boy snorted. He could have just waited till after school, but no. He had to be a show-off in front of a freaking camera like always. I did not breathe. The hallway camera. I knew the one they meant. It was right outside the girls' locker room, mounted just above the side exit where they had fled. I had walked under it hundreds of times, never thinking twice. Now my heart kicked against my ribs. I waited until they left, their voices fading toward the checkout desk, before I slowly stepped out from the row. I returned the book, nodded at Ms. Ashford, and walked calmly, I hoped, back to class. But inside me, everything buzzed like broken wires. Later that night, after dinner was picked at but not finished, and Maribel had gone out, some study group at Corbin's place, of course, I opened the old wooden drawer of my desk and began looking for a USB drive to save my testimony draft. I found a small red one with peeling edges. The label read, 6th grade graduation. Curious, I plugged it into my laptop. A single photo popped up. It was Maribel in her white dress, hair curled, smile camera ready. I was in the background, no surprise there, half cut out by someone's shoulder. Just a sliver of me, my hair and my unsure expression. But that was not what stopped me. It was Maribel's face. She was not just smiling for the camera. She was smiling through it, and her eyes were not searching for me, or anyone. They were locked on the lens with something cold, almost calculating, like she knew this image would be printed, framed, and hung in the hallway. She owned that space then. And now, I sat back in my chair, the photo still open. All this time, I had thought the joke at the assembly was just that, a cruel attempt at humor. But it was not a joke. It was a confession years in the making. That is how she has always seen me, I murmured. Not a sister, not a threat, just an afterthought. Nothing more. I printed the photo and slipped it into the front pocket of my backpack. Then I opened my email again. This time I did not draft another complaint to the school board. Instead, I opened a new message, addressed to the district's IT manager, Mr. Winslow. Subject: Request for camera review. Body: Dear Mr. Winslow, I believe an incident involving personal safety was captured on the hallway camera outside the girls' locker room last Tuesday. I am requesting access or confirmation of the footage's existence. Thank you for your time and discretion. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I saved it as a draft. That night I lay in bed with the printed photo under my pillow. For once I did not feel hunted. I felt like the hunter. My pulse was calm, my thoughts sharp. I was not thinking about justice anymore. Not right away. I was thinking about patterns, evidence, timing. The more they acted like I did not matter, the more clearly I saw them. I whispered to the dark, if I disappear, it will be only on my terms, not theirs. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number, no name, no preview. I opened the message. It read, "You are not the only one, remember that." I did not recognize the number, but what they sent me changed everything. The message came at 1:17 a.m. I was still awake, lying flat on my back in the dark, replaying the image of that hallway camera in my mind. My phone buzzed once on the nightstand. Just one notification. No contact name. There was a video attached. I sat up slowly, the hush of the house amplifying every sound. The rustle of my blanket, the soft creak of the floorboards beneath my mattress. I pressed play, holding my breath. It was shaky and grainy, like it had been filmed in secret. Corbin's voice was unmistakable, even under the crackle of parking lot wind and low laughter. "She cried, man," he said, grinning wide as he leaned against someone's car. "One shove, that is all it took. Freaking blur." The clip cut off abruptly. I did not move for a full minute. I was sure the silence in the house would shatter if I did. Another message followed. "I am sorry. I should have sent this sooner. I just did not know what to do." It was signed Rowena. That name pulled at something buried. Rowena Pike. My friend in 6th and 7th grade. She drifted toward Maribel's circle not long after, then disappeared from my life. the way I had disappeared from most photos. A third message came moments later. "I have the original file if you want it. I will meet you behind Ridgewood Cafe at lunch tomorrow." The next day, I skipped class and walked the long route behind the coffee shop across from school. Rowena was already there, standing under the awning, shifting her weight from foot to foot. She looked different, tired, older than I remembered, but familiar in the way her hands still fidgeted with her sleeves. She did not speak right away, just held out the USB. "I should not have ignored it when it happened," she said quietly. "But I could not sleep after that cruel joke at the assembly. I know what he did, and I know she knew too." I nodded slowly and took the drive from her hand. "Why now?" She looked down. "Because you were bleeding, and nobody said anything at all." Then she turned and walked away. If you have ever felt silenced, ignored, or made invisible even by the people closest to you, what would you have done differently? Share your feelings below. Comment the number 1 if this moment resonates deeply with you. 2 days passed. I did not tell anyone about the file. I kept it tucked into the back of my drawer under an old SAT prep book. I did not need to see it again. I had heard enough in that one clip. But then the envelope arrived. It was just after 5 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. I was home alone. Maribel had a club meeting, and my parents were at a local fundraiser. I checked the mailbox like I always did, more out of habit than interest. Inside was a single manila envelope. No return address. Just my family's name and our street printed in generic block letters. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was one thing. A printed photo. It was me, lying on the locker room floor, blood trailing from my temple, my eyes half open, unfocused. The camera angle was unfamiliar, slightly high, almost as if from the gym's security feed. Underneath the photo was a typed line, "Still think silence protects you?" I stood frozen on the porch, heart hammering, air too tight in my chest. But then, like someone flicked a switch, everything inside me quieted. Someone saw me. Someone believed me. And maybe someone else was just as tired of staying quiet. That night, while reheating leftover spaghetti, my mother poked her head into the kitchen. "Sweetie, how about a haircut this weekend? Just us girls, okay?" Her tone was gentle, even light-hearted. She rarely asked to do things with me alone. I blinked. "Sure. Okay, Mom." For a moment, something in me softened. She came in, opened a bottle of water, leaned against the counter like she used to, before life started tilting toward Maribel. "I just think a fresh look would help. And with everything going on..." She paused, then added carefully, "Let us just keep things light for now, all right? It is Maribel's scholarship interview week. She's under a lot of pressure." The warmth inside me evaporated. I nodded once. "Of course, Mom." We did not speak for the rest of dinner. Later that night, I sat in front of the mirror with the USB in my hand. My reflection stared back, bruised but composed, quiet but not silent. I whispered to my own eyes. I was always afraid that telling the truth would break the family, but maybe it was already broken, and I am just finally looking. I turned back to my laptop. I plugged in the USB, copied the video onto a hidden folder, opened a new Word document, and wrote one sentence. "I am not doing this to ruin you, Maribel. I am doing this to stop becoming less than I am." The cursor blinked under the words like it was waiting for permission. I opened the school board's official incident submission page. My finger hovered over the Upload Evidence button. The screen glowed softly, illuminating my hand. Then my phone buzzed again. One message. "She is coming for you next." The message did not scare me. It confirmed I had waited long enough. I did not reply. I did not ask who sent it. I just set my phone down, opened my laptop, and stared at the video thumbnail one more time. Corbin's face half lit by the parking lot lights, frozen mid-smirk. Like the punchline to a cruel joke no one should have laughed at. The next morning, I was in the school restroom between second and third period. My backpack sat on the tiled floor open beside me while I scrolled through notifications. My thumb hesitated when I saw the post. Corbin smiling. The caption read, "Some people bleed easy. Guess we all have our talents." Underneath it, one reaction stood out. Maribel. Not only did she like it, she commented, "Bless her fragile little heart, ha." My stomach did not drop. My eyes did not well. Instead, a strange quiet settled over me, like a fog lifting. I screenshot the post, locked my phone, and stood still for a full minute inside that pale blue stall. Then I walked out, dried my hands, and went to the library. During lunch, I printed out the post, slipped the paper into my folder, and walked back to my locker. The hallway was half empty. Some kids still finishing their meals, others gathered in small knots of conversation near the vending machines. I opened my locker and taped the printout to the inside wall. Not to hide it, to remember. If I needed a reason not to back down, I murmured under my breath, "This is it. This is the reason." Later that day, I was cutting through the gym corridor on my way to history when I saw something that stopped me cold. Cleo, a freshman with a soft voice and even softer steps, was pinned near the trophy case by Silas, Corbin's friend, the one who stood there the day I hit the floor and did nothing. Cleo's backpack strap was clenched in Silas's fist. She was silent, lips trembling. I did not think. I just moved. I walked right up to them, placed my body between them, and said clearly, "Back off. Now. Right away." Silas looked down at me, smug. "Oh, come on. We are just talking. Relax." "You heard me clearly?" I said. Not louder, but firmer. He held my stare a second too long, like he could not quite believe I was still standing. But he backed off. Cleo let out a breath she had clearly been holding and stepped behind me. Silas shrugged like he did not care, then turned and walked away, whistling like a cartoon villain. Across the hall I saw Coach Merrick watching. He did not say a word, but I walked over to him anyway. "You saw that, did you not?" I asked quietly. He shifted awkward. "Yeah, I saw it." I nodded once. "How long do you think silence really keeps your job safe?" His jaw moved, but he did not answer, just looked away like the floor had something worth studying. After that, I walked Cleo to class. She did not speak, but her hand brushed mine gently at the doorway. That afternoon, I found a note folded in my locker. No name. Just 4 words scrawled on lined paper. "You saved me. Do not stop." I read it 3 times before slipping it into my pocket. Back home, in the quiet of my bedroom, I sat cross-legged on the floor and unfolded the note again. I thought my voice was small. I whispered, "Turns out it just had not hit the right wall yet." For the first time in a long time, I did not feel like I was chasing something. I felt like I was building it, carefully. That evening, while I was helping load dishes into the washer, my phone buzzed. A new email. I dried my hands on a towel and opened it. Subject, scheduled testimony opportunity. Body. You have been granted 10 minutes to present a statement and supporting materials at the school board meeting this Friday, 4:30 in the afternoon, in room 206. My heart did not pound. It just steadied, like I had stepped onto firm ground after drifting too long. I folded the message into my palm like it was something sacred. "Okay then," I said softly. "Let us begin now." I did not need them to believe me anymore. I needed them to hear me. The board meeting was set for late afternoon, the kind of hour when shadows stretch long across tiled floors, and even fluorescent lights feel colder. I arrived 10 minutes early, as instructed, alone. Just me, the USB in my palm, and everything I had left. The room was rectangular, long table at the center, folding chairs arranged around it like props in a play, bottles of water sweating onto cheap coasters, a whiteboard no one had touched at the far end. Sat Maribel, flanked by our parents, my mother in pearls, my father with his blazer too tight at the shoulders, both nodding like diplomats on a goodwill tour. And next to them, Corbin, hair slicked back, blazer too, like they were there for a scholarship photo op. I did not greet anyone, did not even glance their way. I took the empty seat across the table and slid the USB onto the polished wood like it might scorch the surface. The lead board member, Eleanor Stroud, adjusted her reading glasses and folded her hands. "Odessa, you have 10 minutes. I stood. My voice did not shake. "This is what I lived through. You decide if it deserves silence." I inserted the USB and tapped the spacebar. The projector screen flickered once, then came alive. The footage played. There was no music, no narration, just the raw sound of gym hallway buzz, sneakers squeaking, and laughter, followed by the shove, the clang of metal, my body striking the locker's edge. My hands instinctively touched the phantom line above my brow. The video ended with Corbin and his friends disappearing down the back exit. The room held its breath. Maribel was the first to break the silence. Her voice was soft, measured. "This is awful. I swear, I did not know. I would have stopped him immediately." I looked at her. Not through her. Not past her. At her. Corbin let out a quiet scoff, shifting in his seat. "We were just messing around. People get so overly sensitive." Someone near me exhaled audibly, not out of sympathy, out of disgust. That is when Eleanor Stroud lifted another sheet of paper. "This photo was submitted anonymously," she said, holding it up for everyone to see. "It is dated 5 years ago." The photo was familiar. I recognized it from that USB I had found earlier at home. Maribel at my 6th grade graduation. Me, half cut from the frame. Eleanor's voice cut the silence again. "This is not new behavior, is it?" Maribel's mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother looked down at the table. My father cleared his throat like it might buy him more air. Then came the statements. First, junipers. One line read aloud. She was bleeding and I panicked, but she did not cry. She asked for paper towels right away. Then Rowena's. I gave her the video because I could not watch someone lie their way out of the truth anymore. And finally, Coach Merrick. His note was typed, plain font, simple words. I did not speak because I was scared of losing my job. That is not an excuse. The room went still again. Eleanor Stroud looked at the board members, then at the table in front of her. "We have reached a decision. Corbin Vex, suspended for 30 full school days. Immediate removal from all team captainships and athletic privileges for the remainder of the academic year. Maribel Rain, academic probation pending investigation into collusion and intimidation of witnesses." The board announced the initiation of a student-led anti-bullying reform committee. Optional participation, though heavily encouraged for both students and staff. No one clapped. Not because it was not deserved, but because something heavier had settled over the room. An understanding. I did not stay for what came next. I stood, slid the USB back into my coat pocket, and walked out. Not because I was embarrassed, not out of pride either. I was just finished. This was not revenge. This was release. I passed the front office and rounded the corner of the administration wing. The sun had dipped just low enough to cast amber across the sidewalk. That is when Corbin stepped out from behind the sidewall. His expression was not angry. It was practiced, almost smug, like someone holding on to a story they thought still mattered. "This is not over at all," he said, voice low, teeth bared. I did not pause. I met his stare. "You are right," I said quietly. "It has just finally begun now." I turned before he could answer, letting the silence be my punctuation. I did not wait for his reaction. I had a voice now, and I knew exactly where to use it. The community forum was being held in the high school auditorium, the one with the squeaky red velvet seats and dusty stage lights that only flickered properly if you kicked the base of the switchboard. But tonight, they were all lit. Every row was filled. Parents, students, teachers, a few familiar faces from the board, and even a couple of reporters I recognized from the local paper. I sat in the third row. My hands were calm, rested on my lap. The USB was tucked into my pocket, but I would not need it this time. A school staffer stepped up to the podium and scanned the sheet of paper in her hand. Our next speaker is Odessa Bran, senior student. The murmur in the crowd faded. You could hear the air shift. I stood. My legs held steady, though the walk to the mic felt longer than I remembered. Every footstep down the aisle echoed, not because of the acoustics, but because for the very first time people were paying attention. I reached the podium, adjusted the mic once, then spoke into it. They called me a blur. I believed it, until I bled. The words hung in the air. I let them linger. My name is Odessa Bran, and what happened to me in that locker room was not just an incident. It was the tip of a much larger wound, a wound so quiet most of you never even knew it existed. I have been erased in 1,000 small ways. Hand-me-down praise, split birthdays, forgotten rides, and always being the one who had to understand. I glanced at the front row. My mother had her lips tight, hands clutched around her handbag. My father sat beside her like he had swallowed a nail. Maribel was not here. You want to know how bullies survive? I continued. They count on people staying silent, on adults turning away, on peers pretending they did not see, and most of all, on girls like me believing they somehow deserve it. A slight stir rippled across the crowd. But I do not anymore. Just as I caught my breath to continue, the tech assistant in the booth flipped through slides, preloaded visual aids I had sent in earlier. Then it happened. Without warning, one photo blinked onto the screen behind me. The 6th grade graduation picture. Maribel beaming front and center, hair perfect, posture proud. Me, half out of the frame, blocked by someone's shoulder. A blur, a shadow, nothing more. The audience did not gasp. They did not need to. I turned, faced the image. That girl deserved more, I said softly, then turned back to the room. So do all of us. The silence that followed did not feel like absence. It felt like attention. I closed with one sentence. This is not just about my story. It is about everyone you have ever let disappear. The applause started slow. Not loud, not forced. But it spread. Sincere. I walked off stage not needing to look at anyone. I did not need their faces. I already knew what mine looked like now. In the hallway outside the auditorium, the cold fluorescent lights returned. The quiet did too. Maribel passed by me near the vending machines. No makeup, hair pulled back. Her shoulders curled slightly forward, like even her spine was tired of pretending. She did not say a word, did not meet my eyes. I did not stop. Word had already spread. Corbyn was withdrawing from the district. That was the word they used, polished, sanitized. Everyone knew it meant he got pulled out before the school board issued anything worse. I kept walking. An older woman near the side exit touched my arm gently. Her cardigan smelled like clothes and clean laundry. You spoke for my granddaughter, she said. She could not be here tonight, but she is like you in so many ways. I paused. That was the first time all evening I felt breathless. I was like her too, I said, but not anymore. Later, after the building had mostly emptied and the night settled back into its usual hush, I stepped outside. The autumn air cut across my skin, crisp and bracing. Leaves chased each other down the sidewalk like they had somewhere to be. I pulled out my phone. One new message, from a name I had grown to look for, Cleo. Her message was just a sentence. Thank you for standing up. Someday I will too. I did not type anything back right away. Some words do not need a reply. They just need to land. And maybe that is what power really is. Not being loud, just being unafraid. Monday morning came like any other. Except now the halls did not echo with the same weight. Corbin was gone. No notice. No apology. Just gone. His name did not appear on the attendance sheet, and someone said his locker had been cleaned out over the weekend. Some said his family transferred him to a school 2 counties over. Others whispered he had been sent to live with an uncle out of state. I did not ask. Maribel, on the other hand, was still around. Her steps were quieter now. The usual swirl of girls did not follow her from class to class. Even her laugh had disappeared. That Monday, I saw her by the cafeteria entrance. She paused for a beat, looked directly at me. Not a glare, not a smirk, just a glance that held something hollow behind it, and then she looked away. There were no words left between us. Maybe there never were. Classes returned to a rhythm. My chair still sat at the back row in history. My lab partner still did most of the talking in chemistry. I still did not sit at any particular lunch table. But something had shifted. I was not invisible anymore. The freshmen who used to walk past without noticing started giving me small nods in the hallway. I would see them watching, curious, cautious, but not afraid. A few even smiled. And at the end of Thursday's English class, Ms. Fenwick pulled me aside. "We are holding a student-led workshop next month," she said, pulling a flyer from her desk drawer, "about voice, identity, and pushing through adversity. I think your perspective would truly mean something important." I took the flyer with 2 fingers. The paper was heavy, printed with intention. I nodded once. Later that night at home, I found a folded piece of paper on my desk. Not in an envelope, just left neatly on top of my laptop. My mom's handwriting, slanted, careful. "We did not protect you. We are trying to learn how." I did not crumple it. I did not respond. I just tucked it under my journal. Some things did not need an answer, but they needed to be kept safe. By the end of the week, the Community Youth Gallery opened its autumn showcase. I submitted a series I titled Blur No More. I had curated it carefully, not just with the camera, but with memory. One photo showed 2 girls in graduation gowns. Maribel in full focus, front and center. Me cropped at the side, head slightly bowed, my name tag barely visible. The next few images explored shadows, reflections, moments caught mid-motion, but the final image stood by itself at the end of the wall. It was me, taken last week. I had set the timer, framed the shot carefully. I was standing in soft light, camera in hand, facing the lens. Centered, not defiant, not overdone, just there. It was the frame I chose. A group of visitors moved through the gallery space behind me. Some whispered. A few took photos of the photos. I stood nearby, letting them pass. Then Cleo appeared beside me. She looked up at the final piece, took a long breath like she had been holding something all week. "You still do not talk much," she said quietly. I smiled. "I do not need to anymore," I said. What mattered was being seen. She nodded, and we both stood there, shoulder to shoulder, letting the moment settle in. The hum of voices faded as I thought back. Not to the locker room, or the hallway, or even the board meeting. I thought about the photo from 6th grade, the one where I had been nothing more than a blur, someone else's background. And yet here I was. Maribel once called me a background blur, but I did not fade. I focused. And in that moment, I realized the story had never been about revenge. It was about choosing clarity over erasure, presence over absence. I was not invisible anymore, and neither were the countless others who had been silenced in small, cruel ways along the way. The workshop flyer still sat on my desk, waiting for me. But for the first time in years, I felt like my words had a place to go. This story is not just mine. Maybe it is yours too. Maybe you have felt like a blur, hidden in the edges of your own life. I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences. Share them below in the comments because every voice matters. If you found a piece of yourself in this story, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next story. Together, we can keep building a space where silence does not win. Drop a comment with the words "I choose me" as a reminder that your voice is not small, it is powerful. Thank you for spending this time with me. I truly appreciate your presence and your heart. I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, you are never just a blur, you are the focus.